It's a community gathering event. People are lonely, they're isolated, they want to slow down, they don't know how. And this is a chance for them to say, you know what, I'm going to make a pie and bring it to this film and participate and then share it with the audience afterwards. We must have had at least 40 pies.
That was Beth Howard, and this is Roar. Hi, everybody. This is Danielle Davies from Roar. Today, we're talking to Beth Howard. Beth was a journalist for more than 20 years, telling other people's stories, when in 2001, she made a surprising pivot, leaving a lucrative web producing job to bake pies. That decision eventually led to the World Needs More Pie website, 4 books, and now Piowa, A Piece of America, her first documentary film. Piowa has been screening around the country, spreading largely through word of mouth, and has already earned the Best Food Film Award at the San Antonio Film Festival, the Audience Award at the Silicon Beach Film Festival, and an award of merit from the Impact Docs Awards. What stands out most in the film isn't how pie is just food, it's memory, ritual, comfort, and connection, and how often it's women doing that work. Today's conversation explores why nourishment and storytelling so often fall to women, what that labor really represents, what happens when women choose it on their own terms, and of course, pie. Welcome, Beth.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm thrilled that you're here. And I, obviously have done my background stuff and my research into you and have obviously watched Piowa, which I highly recommend. But tell me, you spent decades as a journalist beforehand. What originally drew you to pie as a subject that you could center and document?
Yeah.
Well, and not just eat.
No. I mean, I think it goes back to what you said was, the .com job that I left as a web producer. And I was so tired of working behind a computer and creating virtual worlds for outdoor adventure websites. I'm like, no, go outside, for real. Like, don't just don't have some simulated experience on your computer. You should really go outside. So I got really, that didn't sit well with me philosophically. So I told my bosses that I wanted to quit and I wanted to go do something with my hands. I wanted to engage my senses, do something tactile. And I blurted out, I just want to go make pie. And that's what I ended up doing. So it was just kind of weird how you could just put an idea out there and then it happens. It's like I left San Francisco and moved down to Los Angeles where I had been living previously during my journalism years. And I walked into a little cafe in Malibu that was supposed to be known for its pie. It was actually brand new. They were supposed to have good pie and they didn't have any when I walked in. So I said I would make it for them. And next thing you know, I'm not only making pie for a year there, it's set me on this whole crazy pie journey of books and now film and blog.
It's crazy because it's pie, and you think about any kind of thing. I'm looking around because I'm it's just as common as anything, like a candle or this or that, but because it is actually so much more than that. But you've identified that it's so much more than that. It is as simple and everyday as a candle or a bookmark or a pen or the things that we use in our homes, but it's so much more than that because it's the experience of the making and the nourishing and the community and the gathering, but that you identified at the earliest stage.
Well, it was also, like you said in the introduction, memory, because my dad loved banana cream pie. That was a thing all through his life, all through my childhood. My first pie memory is having banana cream pie with him at, in fact, the Canteen Lunch in the Alley, which is this diner in Ottumwa, Iowa, that's featured in my film. My film opens up with that because, it's my first pie memory. Why not start there? And I just all through our life, and now even he passed away in 2017, and when I miss him, I go and have a piece of banana cream pie or just to celebrate him or just, I don't know, I can't eat a piece of banana cream pie without almost swallowing tears with it because I just miss him so much. So, it's an emotional thing. And I found that is true for pretty much everybody across the board. Crazy enough, people I interviewed in the film were actually breaking down in tears on camera because I'm talking about a pie memory evoked so much emotion and so much love, That's what
Yes.
it comes down to.
And I think you captured that so well in the film. I'm just curious, like, why do you think, and of course I think I know the answer to this, but I want to get your words, obviously. Why do you think feeding and nourishing, especially through something like pie, which is, and in your film, letting everybody know, in the film, Beth actually shows that pie isn't, there's savory pies and there's meals as pies, and talks even about different cultural interpretations of pies, like egg rolls and things like that. But in terms of the American view of pie as like a dessert and something special and like the add-on to your meal, why do you think feeding and nourishing, especially through that kind of special thing of pie, has historically been women's work?
I just got asked that the other day, and then I kind of argued and said, "Well, there's lots of men making pie now too, you know." So
This is
was
true.
that's something that I learned by making the film, is that there are also a lot of men that make pie, and it is, associated with, like, at least in Iowa, with the church ladies, not church men, but the ladies, and the farm wives, housewives. Pies are taken to fundraisers, potlucks. It is usually the women. I mean, that's what we see face value. But if you dig a little deeper, there's also a lot of men making the pie. But it was like in Iowa. I think what makes it so sort of closely associated with Iowa is the farm wives. Like, I heard a lot of stories about, oh yeah, my grandma used to take pies out to the field and feed the farmers at lunchtime. Women don't do that anymore, generally. The guys come home for lunch, make their own damn lunch, But back in the day, that was the
Yeah.
thing. The women made the pies and took them out to the field and fed the men, or
that was
not
like
just field, but any office or whatever,
That was like the trade-off, right? Like, you're giving me financial care. I'm supporting you with the emotional, nourishing care. And
food
this
that you love, food that makes you happy, food that gets you excited, that's the thing, though. It's this exchange where, if you bring a pie to somebody and they're like, oh, that looks so good, and they love it, and they love it, and then you see them happy, that makes you happy. And it's just this like really beautiful, warm exchange of kindness and generosity. Like, I know you like this pie, so I made it for you, right? And then it makes everybody's day better. Like the farmers in the field, for example, if they're sweating their butts off out there and then somebody brings them a pie, it's like you win some bonus points for that.
Quick pause, because if you're listening to Roar, I have a feeling you're exactly the kind of person I write for. I send out a Substack newsletter where I go a little deeper, more personal stories, behind the scenes thoughts, and honestly, some of the things we don't always say out loud here. If you want to stay connected between episodes, you can find it at roarwithDanielleDavies.substack.com. I'd love to have you there. And now, back to your regularly scheduled podcast. You talked about, too, the effort. Like, that means something. And for me, so I didn't grow up with a lot of pie. I mean, I love pie. And I do have a great pie story, but I did not grow up like, my mom is half Italian, my mom's Italian, my dad's Irish. So I grew up with like all the steak and potatoes dishes of the world and like a million different Italian cookies. And so like we have a special Italian cookie that we make every year, and it reminds me of my grandmother, and this is her rolling pin, and we do all these things. And it's the labor of those cookies. Some people don't even like the cookies, but it's the amount of work. And I think even like with pie, right? It's the effort. And I always relate it to mixtapes. Remember mixtapes? Like, if somebody made you a good mixtape, that was effort. Like, that took time. You're hitting start and stop. You're waiting for the right song. You might call into the DJ to have them play a song. So these things are transformed from just food or things to like a form of care. When you were making Piowa, did you see that more than you already see it doing like cookbooks and, serving pie? Did you already start to?
That was what the whole film was really about, was showing care for others, ultimately. And so, yes, I mean, I was just inundated with all those stories of of goodness and kindness and generosity, people making pie specifically just to give it away, for Thanksgiving or, like I said, for the fundraisers. You see all these people coming together to volunteer to make pies, to support their town. So, yeah, I think every single story had some sense of care for others in it. And
Absolutely.
I think that's what makes the film so meaningful to people, why it's resonating, because it's like, no, if we would all just do one thing to show somebody else that we care, that our world would be in a much better place. Like, I'm quoting somebody else from the film who said that, but I believe that also. It's just, it doesn't take much. It just like go make somebody a pie. And then also, as you saw in the film, the food editor from Better Homes and Gardens, the Red Plaid cookbook.
Yes.
Yeah. And she even says, even if you have to use a cheater crust. And I love how she did the air quotes. I worked with an editor on part of this, and I said, oh, you gotta show her doing the air quotes, because that's a cheater crust,
Oh, and yeah, I loved that
emphasis,
like
right? But
she's
like, it doesn't matter. The fact is, you're going in the kitchen and making somebody for somebody else, to show them that you care. So it's a simple thing you can do.
And it's effort, but it's not like a tremendous amount. It's not like building a house. Like, it's not building a house. You don't have to give everything. Part of the reason that I started this podcast is because I wanted to show that the different ways women support other women, and that that advocacy doesn't mean you have to just show up somewhere with a picket sign. And, there are a million ways. Like, I hear women and they'll say, I want to make a change, but I don't want to run for office. I'm like, well, there's a million things you could do. You could write a poem. You could bake a pie. There's so many ways to
knit a red hat.
Yes, you could. Yes, you could do that. There's so many ways. That's your next documentary. There's so many ways to make a difference in people's lives in a positive way. And I just thought the way you portrayed it and showing these ladies and like these, everybody has to watch this film, showing these ladies and like these tables just full of pies. And like, sometimes they're whole pies. Sometimes you see the slices and people coming up and I'm like, I'm getting off topic, but I want to say also, I loved the idea. And I do feel like this is yes, there are men who cook. Don't get me wrong. My own husband is a great cook, and he's been making dinner a lot, and I'm very happy about it. But he's not necessarily resourceful in the way where I'm like, well, there's a little bit of this, we should do this. So one of the things that I really loved about Piowa was the raisin sour cream pie. And the idea, and people who are listening might be like, what? Because at first I was like, oh, but then I saw it. It kind of almost reminded me of a rice pudding, like the way that it looked.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I could try that pie. But the idea that, these are things that were plentiful when there wasn't fresh fruit. You had dried grapes and you had sour cream. It's dairy farms. Like, they made do and learning to make do. And could you speak to that at all about women's ability, or especially anybody who's like a nurturer or caregiver's ability to kind of adapt and just use the resources available, which I feel like is just so much of pie.
Right. And that's what some of the older women in the film talked about, is that, that's all they had in the cupboard back then, or they didn't want to, like you said, they didn't want to be wasteful. That's why the sour cream raisin pie has a meringue top, because they use the egg yolks in the pudding, and then so they save the egg whites for the top. That was, they didn't have money. They didn't have grocery stores. They didn't have what do you call the Amazon Prime or DoorDash or whatever the hell. That's one of the things I talk about a lot when I teach pie classes. I'm like, the pioneers made pie, right? In their wagon trains, traveling across our continent without refrigeration, without big ovens. They had Dutch ovens. They cooked over campfires and put coals on top of the lid. And, I think the pie harkens back to that, of really having to make do, not just with ingredients, but with everything. Like, we have these recipes now that are so fussy, and it irks me because it's like, you don't have to do it that way. Our ancestors didn't do it that way. They didn't have all these conveniences that we have. So let's try to just keep it simple. And I feel like there's a real lesson in that, from making do with what you have. You know, if you, I don't know, there's always a substitute, right? And anything can go in a pie crust. So that's the other thing about pie. Absolutely anything, sweet, savory, any combination of anything. So this the versatility of it is really lends itself to improvisation or using whatever you have on hand. And I think I don't know. I'm practical that way myself. So I don't like it when people preach about you have to use this fancy brand of butter or your fruit has to be just so. And it's like, no, it doesn't. Like go pick the apples in your backyard, even if they have worms in them. You cut around them. That's what we do. And living here on a farm in Iowa, it's well, with the people I live with around me, it is like that. They are still making do with things, which I appreciate. I mean, the nearest grocery store is a half hour away. That's not easy to get to when you have, a foot of snow on the ground.
Yeah. Or when you need just like you forget two things.
Right.
Like you got to adapt. Yeah.
Too bad. You're going to have to find something else. So, and I've been living in rural Iowa now since 2010. So I have really learned a different way of life, in terms of shopping and making do, improvising, all that. So going without.
This is like way esoteric and not at all what I planned to ask. But, you have such a unique cultural viewpoint. Your lens is because you're back and forth between Iowa, where you're on a farm, and LA, where that is not what people think of when they think of LA. Like they're not thinking of farms, and you weren't really, and you were in San Francisco. So even just like in this cultural moment that we're happening to have right now, which is obviously a uniquely terrifying time in 2026, how can things like as simple as pie help? And I hope I'm not making that sound too simple, because I don't mean it to be like too simple. But I feel like there's so much running and we have so much focus on the problems of the world, and rightfully so, because it's a hot mess. But I feel like there's nothing very slow going on. Like I intended to send a letter to somebody this morning, and I got a text before I got it back. And I actually was going to write a handwritten note. It was a thank you note, and somebody texted the thank you from somebody else. So I just joined on. I'm like, well, you're right. Forget the note. Mm-hmm. I'm going to just cut to the chase here and thank you. But I was like, the note would have been so much more meaningful.
You can still writ the note.
I can still write the note, and I probably
should still write the note.
Yeah,
I would still write the note, and that's like a homemade pie, and people appreciate it, and it really means something. And even if you already said thank you via text, doesn't mean you can't still write the note.
And that's what I was going to say. Like culturally, do you feel like it's these simple things that can help us, or how much do you think they can help us?
Well, I have a very recent example. I just did a screening in Newport Beach, California.
The
land of yachts and
yes,
quite a lot of wealth, and I was really nervous that people wouldn't come, that they wouldn't have that like deep appreciation for pie. This is a film about pie in Iowa. Why would they come? So we sold so many tickets and people showed up with homemade pies to share with others after the film. So that's become this part of this phenomenon of Piowa, where it's a community gathering event. People are lonely, they're isolated, they want to slow down, they don't know how. And this is a chance for them to say, you know what, I'm going to make a pie and bring it to this film and participate and then share it with the audience afterwards. So we had like, I don't even know how many, we must have had at least 40 pies. Yeah. And homemade. People showed up with their little baskets, and I was so surprised and so excited about how the screening went, because I don't know, people showed up that were like, well, my grandparents were from Iowa, my great grandparents. So there was some like Iowa root thing, and it just brought out something in them of like, and also, by the way, when I'm in LA and I tell people, well, I also live on a farm in Iowa. Oh, you should see their face. Oh, that just sounds so great. So I just feel like there's this longing for more simplicity. And I feel like I've been able to convey that not only just by making the film and showing it, but these screenings that are bringing people together in real life and sharing pie afterward, like hanging around. They don't just take off after the film ends. They stay, they eat pie. They tell everyone's got a pie story. You already told me that you've got a pie story, so I'm waiting for it. But everyone's got a pie story. It's amazing, and it's just been so. I don't know, like life affirming, and people are just full of compliments when they come out because they just, oh, this made me feel so good. This gives me hope for humanity. It just reminds you that there's kindness in the world. And, and there's a full range of people represented in this film, young to old, every ethnicity. It just shows you the broad scope of this one subject, of this one dish that connects us, and it's something like we can all agree on in a time where we're so divided. But well, guess what? We all still love pie. Let's get together and eat pie and share pie, and that's it. I mean,
it's crazy you actually say that, because it's like I was just reading an opinion piece. I want to say it was David Brooks. I think it's him, who is an opinion columnist with the New York Times, and he's retiring. And he was saying that over the course of his career, one of the things that alarmed him, there was good and bad, but one of the things that alarmed him is there is such a disconnect right now of alignment in terms of good or bad. But like, it might be as easy as pie, but it's like, if pie is one universal truth and we can say, okay, let's just start here. We all like pie, some kind of pie, right? Like,
right.
We all like pie. Now, like, what's the next thing we have in common? It's just, that's why I didn't mean to make the question so big, or so heavy, but I feel like even with this kind of simple conversation, it's so much more than that, especially now. I feel like you really managed to convey that in the film as well.
Well, it was important to me, and I'm glad it came through, and it was like, these are other people's words, everything I would have liked to have said, but it's so much stronger coming from this whole assortment of people. But I would add one more thing. I mean, first of all, I think this is a really important subject, but a little aside from that, because I always say pie is a metaphor, so like if we can all agree on pie, maybe we can find something else we can agree on. It's a starting point. But also in teaching pie classes, people are really afraid to make pie crust. They think it's really hard, and they're fearful. And so when
I'm terrified.
So when I teach a class, and I'm really strict, I walk around with my rolling pin. If you overwork that dough, I'm gonna, you're gonna be sorry. Like a nun.
I would think so, right?
School, right. So the pies always turn out because I am so vigilant. I'm just keeping a really close eye on everybody, and all the pies all have 100% success record. And my thing is, if you can get past your fear of making a pie, then maybe you can get past the fear of doing something else. That's like the entry. And then you go, well, I made a pie. Maybe I could also do, fill in the blank, right? So that's to your point of, if we can all agree on pie, maybe we can find other things to agree on. But if we can get over our fear of making pie dough, we can also get over fear of other things. So that's why pie just keeps bringing me back. It's such a great metaphor for so many things. It's a great teaching tool. It's a great, I don't know, it's a great symbol of so many things.
Well, and I feel like, as anybody who's a character, it's storytelling too. Like, you're seeing the metaphor in it. You are a storyteller, and you're also a baker and a pie baker, and now a pie expert and a documentary director, producer, the whole nine yards. You create
whatever.
Like,
I don't know.
Documentarian?
I don't know. I just want the world to be a better place. I don't care what you call me. I'm just out there like trying to use my voice and my creativity and speak my truth and encourage people to be, just to be more generous and think of others. Don't be so fucking selfish. Oh, sorry.
Nope, you're totally fine.
It's like the Grammys, they have to bleep. You're going to have to bleep me, but yeah. I don't know. It's just like, really think of other people, not just yourself, and pie symbolizes that just by its virtue of it's meant to be shared. Right.
I love that. But I love that you've recognized the storytelling aspect of pie and like helped other people to be able to do that too. And like, you're like, everybody has a pie story. I mean, it's kind of like any type of historical knowledge that we used to get was passed down. And it's so often like passed down while you're talking, while you're doing something in the kitchen. And this is like, it's the item itself, right? It's the pie, it's the tangible thing you've made but it's also the conversations that are happening over it, around it. And so I just think it's a great storytelling metaphor, like you said. So
yeah, I never seem to get tired of it. That's what's amazing. I have tried to get away from the subject a few times, and I go,
have you?
Well, I'm like, maybe I should try I'm a Gemini. I have to try new things, challenge myself. I mean, so rather than find a new subject, I'm like, this subject is still so compelling. Why not find a new medium for it? And that's why I switched from books to film, because I'm like, I need a new challenge. And yeah. So
wait,
like,
and what was that like, by the way, to transition into that? And that's like another thing to talk about too, because you're, this foray into this. A lot of times I think people think, oh, I'd love to do this, but I already have this career. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to make money doing it. I don't know how to support it.
Oh yeah. So that's the overthinking stuff. I don't do that. I don't overthink. That's what stops everybody. They overthink it. They come up with all the reasons why, no, it's not going to work, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going to try and see how far I can go. And then I just kept going. And once I committed, I was like, I'm not going to give up on this. I'm going to finish it all the way to the end. And I had written books before, so I know how to do a longer term project. But I had to learn everything. But that's kind of what I wanted. And also, just some backstory. I had been trying to sell a docuseries about pie.
Oh, get out of here.
Since 2010. Okay, that's a long time ago. And Hollywood just wants a baking competition. I'm like, another baking competition, really? Or they want a celebrity host. And I'm saying neither. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make my own proof of concept and show you what I'm talking about, because you can't seem to freaking understand that this is about everyday, shining a light on everyday people, telling other people's stories. And then a lot of people, when I was making the film, said, oh, this should be more about your story. And I said, if you want to know about my story, you can go read my books. I've had lots of press. I've done a TEDx talk. I don't need to tell my story. This is other people's stories. And there's so many great stories out there, as you saw in the film. And that's only a fraction of them. So I just called up a whole bunch of filmmakers that I knew and asked for advice. And then I started shooting some things on my iPhone, and then I hired some camera people, and then next thing you know, it was like a full in, both feet in, going around the state of Iowa to the bike ride across Iowa. That's this annual bike ride, 500-mile bike ride across the state every year, where people come and they have team names, like Team Pie Hunter and Team No Pie Refused. They're just riding their bikes so that they can eat pie all along the route, because these church ladies come out, or, these organizations, the Amish, all these people have these pie stands along the route. So it's a big pie event. And then the Iowa State Fair with the pie competition and pie on a stick, which is really funny, and pie eating
crazy.
contest.
And I have to say, like, I didn't know any of this history about pie. First of all, I had no idea. So for anybody listening, we were, Beth and I were introduced through a friend of Beth's, and who told me about this. And one of the things she said is that you had gotten that first job in Malibu at the bakery, basically because you said you lived in Iowa. And so they associated that so strongly with pie. I had no idea that it was like Iowa and pie go together like peanut butter and jelly.
I don't know. Look, like a lot of this stuff that's happened is just because I blurted out, without thinking, like, oh, I think I quit my .com job. I think I'll just go make pie. And then, I go to the pie thing to get a piece. Well, I'll make it for you. And then I'm from Iowa. I don't know. I just
no, but it's
a little bit crazy that way.
I think it's really, I think it's
whatever.
It's great, but it is also like more astute, I think, than you even realize. Like, I think you're onto something, but it's happening at some like deep level where you're like, it's just me. But no, really, you're onto
I don't know. Sometimes, like, I feel like, though, with making this film, because it was hard, way harder than writing a book. Way harder. And I had to learn how to edit like Adobe Premiere Pro software. That made me cry many, many times and swear a lot. And my partner would he'd come home for lunch and he'd hear me up in my office. He knew like stay away.
So you did
Yeah.
all the editing.
I didn't do all the editing. I did a lot of the editing. And I ended up doing a lot of the shooting because some of the camera people I hired did a very poor job. And I was like, I'm not going to pay money for this when also in Iowa, those old ladies, they don't like a big camera crew. They just freeze. They just completely wouldn't talk. They wouldn't smile. They wouldn't tell me anything. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? But if you use the phone, it's amazing that they're used to it being having a phone around. It's small. It's not like in their face. And
their grandchildren probably have
right.
them.
Then I could just run around with my phone, and I got really good footage that way. So I was like, okay. But then the editing was definitely the hard part because what do you do with all these stories? How do you put them together? And everyone was like, oh, what's your 3-act structure? And I'm like, I don't have a 3-act structure. And it took months to figure out what, and it doesn't have to be a 3-act structure, by the way. It's a theme-based movie, but a 3-act structure did sort of organically show itself by like, oh, past, present, future, right? Here's the nostalgia aspect, the memories, and then there's the what's happening now with all the events, and then there's the future of pie making with all these young people baking. So it kind of just showed itself. But with this project, never in my life have I ever felt like the universe has my back like this. Like every time I needed something and I was against the wall, boom, it showed up. Whatever I needed showed up every single time. And it's still happening. It's crazy.
Wait, tell me an example.
Well, like I was out of money, and then all of a sudden I got this grant from the state of Iowa, and it was like I didn't expect to get it, and I was like, "Oh, thank you," And I mean, I was just getting down to zero in my production bank account. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's
to
fantastic.
The wire, and it just happened again. Then I needed somebody to do my what they call color correction, which was not a fun process. And by the way, the color, you pay thousands of dollars to have all the color like evened out in your film, and then it looks different on every single screen everywhere. It's crazy. Like I'm still having stress about certain things about the film, but
I'm sure, because any editing experience that I've had, even from doing a podcast, has been like so painful and so terrible. And I'm like, this is why, like they say that the average podcast only lasts 7 episodes. I'm like, that's why, because
but once I got into it, I loved it. That was actually one of my favorite things looking back. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. And maybe if I put this here or this song here, or, the transition with this. And that's the super creative part. I think editors are very underrated for what they can do. Yeah.
Do you think you'd ever do it again?
Oh, yeah. So if you would have asked me that when this came out in June, I would have said, no way, never. And then around Christmas, I was just laying in bed and I was like, oh, well, what if I did that story? And then I was like, what about that other story? Next thing you know, I'm like, wait a minute. Are you thinking about doing another documentary? So like without even trying, just the subconscious or whatever woo-woo stuff happens. It's like, okay, we're ready to do the next one. And, because I had made this as a proof of concept for a TV series, like a docuseries or streaming, whatever. I don't feel like I want to do that anymore. I don't want that. I almost want to use the word constraint. Like, I don't want the constraint of having to answer to like a studio or another production company or a stream, no, I love the autonomy of doing a documentary, working independently. I call all the shots. It's all on me. I like that, and I can handle that. I've proven that. And I don't need anybody's permission. So I'm thinking like my next one would be like Piowa, but it would cover the whole United States, like as a, just, show the geographical range and definitely more stories, from other parts of the country. And I'm not saying I'd go to every single state and but maybe every year, every year, I didn't say that. Every year I could do a different one. No, I didn't say that. It's not a series. It's just maybe I could do one more and, see where that leads. I don't know. But there's definitely, no pun intended, but there definitely seems to be a hunger for this. And I always think of this, there's these films, the Warren Miller ski films. They've been around for decades. And I used to be a big skier. And I lived in California and I'd go to the Warren Miller film. And it's like, it's an in-person thing where everyone comes once. It's not online. It's in person. So you go to the theater and all the skiers, they have this love of skiing in common. They come and watch the ski film and they have a new one every year. And I mean, I'm sure they've got lots of people working on this. So I'm just by myself, but
for now.
Yeah. But I know I do need to hire people. But I don't know. It's like I sort of see the pie film like that kind of a phenomenon where everybody who loves pie, they would love to get together every year and see the annual pie film, right? Wouldn't that be fun? And I also have been reading articles about in fact, Pam Redmond sent me an article about there's a trend, if you will, to go back into the theater, to in-person events that have some kind of a common theme or a unifying thread, something. And I'm like, I'm doing that, I'm ahead of the trend. Or I'm right on trend.
Right. Yes, you've been ahead of the trend. In the very beginning, when we started talking, you said about working in San Francisco with web stuff and how you wanted something tactile. And I literally also worked in San Francisco and was working at a publishing company, but it was during the .com era. So I think everybody was trying to lean towards that, the early 2000s. Not the beginning, the boom of the beginning.
Yeah.
But it just reminded me recently, I live in New Jersey, so it gets really gray. And as I get older, I notice the darkness starts to affect me more. And I need a dose of sunshine. And so a couple years ago, I bought myself one of those little lamps that you're supposed to put yourself in front of. And I really did never do it because I don't sit still long enough to have myself in front of the lamp. So I almost the other day invested in these glasses that were several $100s. And you put them on for the first half hour of your day. And they're light. It's like a light to kind of open your eyes and it emulates sunshine. And then all of a sudden, as I'm about to hit the button to go on a payment plan to buy these glasses, I'm like, or you could just go outside, you idiot. I feel like we're just starting to have that yearning to return to real life. Not that any of these things aren't real. I mean, I couldn't have a job of any sort if there were no internet. I'm very grateful for the luxuries that technology has brought me. And I'm grateful that I can access the things I can access. But I feel like we've stepped away so much from the actual grass, I was I'm about to buy a device that emulates the very thing. All I have to do is put on a coat to go feel on my face. And I feel like that's a lot also of what Piowa does. And to do those in person, you're talking about the events or even rolling it out as a continued thing. I think people miss community and people are lonely, like you said. Right. And it's, we've also forgotten how to get along a lot with people who are different than us because we don't ever really have to see them. You know what I mean? You don't have to, there are a lot of ways to not leave your house.
Right.
So,
yeah, I definitely see that that's been one of the huge draws of this film. And then the word of mouth, because people feel good when they come and see it. Then they want their friends to have that same experience. And it is really fun when there's pie served afterward.
Oh, come on. Exactly.
Right? Everybody's so hungry for pie after the film that they're like, oh my God, I'm desperate for pie. It's I can barely get through the Q&A because I'm like, I know you guys know there's pie out there and waiting for you in the lobby. So
all different kinds.
Try to keep it short. What's that?
And all different kinds. Well, and one more thing I wanted to ask you, a few more things, but before I get to the actual pie, because I feel like I'm going to have to hang up with you and go to the grocery store and get pie.
Get some butter, get some
I should have
flour.
had some here. But, talking about you transitioning into this new skill set and learning this new thing, not a lot, but there's a section of your film where you speak to some younger women who are leaving leaving corporate careers to open up their own pie shops. And it seems to be that also that autonomy. How do you think about that shift? Are they stepping away from ambition? There's a lot of talk about the ambition gap, or are they redefining ambition?
I think it's a number of things. I think part of it is they want to do something real. They want to do something with their hands, like that was my reaction to leaving the .com. They want the autonomy, definitely. And as far as ambition, no, it's really hard work to run a pie shop. It's really hard work. So you have to be ambitious. You have to still be ambitious if you want to do a pie shop. There is a lot to it. It's not just, oh, I want to make some pies and people will come. It's like you have to do the marketing. You have to do the ordering. It's a lot. I had a little pie stand for 4 years, and it was, people would say, oh, it must be fun to have just a little weekend business. And I would just steam would come out of my head. I'm like, you have no idea. I work 7 days a week to do this little weekend business, So yeah. So no, it's a noble thing that these people are doing, that they're opening a pie shop. But I mean, I still see storefronts. I go, oh, that'd be a cute pie shop. And I still have my fantasies, like, oh, I could, and I'm like, don't even think about that. It's not going to happen. I'm so bad at bookkeeping. I could never keep a pie shop going. But
it's that that element, like you said, well, you didn't say the words risk-taking element, but you did say don't even, pay attention to those questions because the self-doubt will kind of kill you.
Yeah. No, don't overthink it. And my other big saying is ignore the naysayers. That's my big motto. People are going to try to talk, even if you don't talk yourself out of it, other people will try to talk you out of it. And I say, you have to want to do it bad enough. Anything in life, you have to want to make a film bad enough to see it all the way through. If you want to write a book, you have to want it bad enough to make it a priority. You want to open a pie shop, and that's a, business thing. But yeah, I think change is good. I like it when people just go, I'm going to do something different, and I'm going to try something new and something that maybe is more fulfilling than my corporate job. Yeah, I love that.
But by doing it yourself and shining a spotlight on other people, I think it gives women the permission to say, hey, this is, it's not, because there's always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be somebody who's like, practical job. Like, why would you leave that .com job? It's practical. Look at the money you're making. You can count on it. It's dependable.
I'll never make that much money again, but I don't care. It's fine. It wasn't about that. Money wasn't making me happy. It was making me fat, sitting at that desk all the time. And it's an outdoor adventure website, and I'm like super athletic. And then I'm like working so hard that I was like, this is all backwards. So, yeah.
Well, I feel like you, in what you're doing, is kind of giving other women permission to step into something new.
Yeah. Also, I do want to add, I started this film at 61 years old. Okay. So I am not a spring chicken. I have, I'm not retiring anytime soon. Retirement's never been a word in my vocabulary. My mom's 89. She's still working. She's in Atlanta on a business trip right now. She's adorable. So, and I mean, I'm sure that job is what's keeping her so sharp and alive. And I'm not too old to make another film after this one, but so I'm 63 now, and it's like, I'm not too old, and to learn something new, for one thing, to try something completely different. And then, hello, surprise, actually have success at it. I'm like, wow, why didn't I make a documentary when I was 40 instead of 60? But here we are. So,
but you are giving so many people permission to kind of think about it for their own lives. Who gave you yours?
Well, I think I've always been that way. I went to a college that was like a very hands-on, the Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington. And you can sort of design your own curriculum there. So if I had an idea of something I wanted to do, I could create my own. I would propose that I would read these books. I would write these reports. This is what I would like, almost like a thesis, but undergrad, So that was a really great school for me, because I am a self-starter that way. And also, I don't like it when if I have an idea and I want to do something, I don't like it when people get in my way. So I'm like, I'll find a way around, and that's it. Like Hollywood didn't want my pie docuseries. fine, I'll go make my own. And now, ha ha ha, I mean, I don't mean it spiteful like that. I just mean
No.
like, look, you guys, I was trying to tell you, and now look, it is like taking off. So I'm waiting for them to call me back and go, oh, sorry. Well, yeah, we'll take it now. But I'm like, I don't know that I want that. I don't want to have to answer to anybody. So yeah, I don't know. But that's maybe just, that's I've always had a really good support system. My parents always encouraged us to follow our bliss and all that. So,
Well,
I
it sounds
think,
like your mom is pretty
yeah.
like much a trailblazer too. Do you mind if I ask what she does at 89?
So she works for an organization that it's basically they teach meditation, but it's called Centering Prayer, and it's through the Catholic Church, sort of. Sort of.
Get
This
out
doesn't have to be Catholic, but it's like started by a monk, So yeah. So she goes around, and she's a volunteer coordinator now. She used to plan their whole national conference, and she's worked with them for so many years. She's kind of like the wise elder there now, and she's on Zoom calls with people from all over the world every day. It's like, who would have guessed, So yeah.
Well, I feel like having a mom like that would make it so there's not like you weren't questioning, or were you during making Piowa? Were you ever like, it's too late? Like you just said, I should have done it when I was 40. Did you ever
Oh
think
yeah,
like,
no. I never felt it was too late. I was like, I'm going to fit. It's actually my little thing that I do now, and it's kind of sounds morbid, but I'm like, if I'm working on a project and I feel like, so many people are getting cancer and dying, and I was like, if I had 6 months left to live, if I got a diagnosis right now and someone said I had 6 months left to live, I would finish this film, like that's. And I mean, I said that when I was writing my last book. If I do nothing else before I die, I have to finish this book, So
oh my gosh, I am like this too. And I know
okay, but you know what?
morbid.
That I say I am like a Jack Russell Terrier, and you've got a terrier, so you can relate, right?
Yes,
I have like a terrier personality, willful, and I won't give up. I just won't give it up. So, yeah.
But I love how you like frame it too against like what you've got left, like in terms of what I actually just was.
Well, a sense of urgency, right?
Yes,
a sense of urgency,
yes.
Because a lot of people will put it off. I'm like, dude, if you want to write that book or do that project or do it now. Like, what are you waiting for? I definitely am like a do it now person. And I don't even have a bucket list because I've always done everything. Like, if I want to do it, I go do it. I just like, I don't put it off because I don't know. I was married and my husband died suddenly and unexpectedly at the age of 43. So I think that's left a permanent mark on my psyche of you cannot take it for granted. So what are you going to do with this one precious life, right?
Okay, real quick. If you're listening and thinking more women should be hearing conversations like this, the best way to support the show is just to follow or subscribe wherever you are. It really does help it reach more people. Thanks so much. Okay, back to the show. And you say it's morbid, and I understand because it sounds to other people when you're like, well, I might have this. I mean, yeah. I've actually done it even with books. Like I love to read. And many years ago, I read something that was saying, if you do the math, like how many books you have left. And that's when I used to never not finish a book. But then when I read that, I did the math and I was like, okay, I really, if I go the longest that I think I'm going to go, I only have, if I read this many books a year, this is how many books I have. I'm only reading books that have really good reviews. And I have to, if I get past a certain page, I let it go because I'm like, life is short and I really love books and I'm not going to spend my time reading books I don't like. Like
you're not obligated to finish it. Yeah.
No. And I know that's such a simple example, but in everything, even just going away to New York, I was just going and it was supposed to be below zero when I went, and I talked to my son and I'm profoundly lazy. I would prefer to stay in my house. I like to be comfortable. And it was going to be so cold. I knew I was going to have to wear 2 pair of pants, 2 shirts, like everything was going to be doubled, boots, many socks. And my son was like, Mom, you're 51 years old. He goes, what do you have? 40 years left to go to New York. And I was like, you're right. You're absolutely right. Thank you for the perspective. Like, I appreciate that because I feel like I see it too. And everybody acknowledges that, I guess, on some level, but I think some people are way better at being like, I have plenty of time. I have plenty of time. For me, I've always felt like a bit of a sense of urgency. And so I appreciate that. And I appreciate
Yeah.
that you went and you did it. And it's awesome. So
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, well, pie was like just not just about pie, obviously. And you're not going to leave hungry. You're going to leave it feeling uplifted and hopeful. What do you most want people, women who have spent years feeding others, to feel when they watch it?
That they're appreciated, that what they're doing is giving love, and the world needs more of that. And that's the best thing you could possibly do with your life, so that they would be appreciated for making that pie, making memories with their families or their friends, and making the world a better place by just baking a pie. Yeah, that's definitely.
You absolutely, because it's funny you're saying it. I'm literally like, to be appreciated, because that's what you get when you watch it. You actually, as just a mom, I felt appreciated as a mom who's literally made 2 pies ever, and also the cheater crust. And and I did make
No judgment.
Thank you. I made a pie for Thanksgiving this year that I previously made. That was my other pie. That one was successful. I don't know what I was thinking, but I didn't put anything on the bottom of the pan of the cheater crust. And it was we were like chiseling it out, but it was delicious. But it was like a fail. As a mom who's not a pie baker, I also felt appreciated. Just the idea of feeding and nurturing as love.
Okay, it's never a fail. It's never a fail.
Thank
Even if
you.
the crust is a little hard, just people can eat around it. If you didn't put enough sugar in it, just put some ice cream on it. It's never a fail. The fact that you did it is nobody really cares. You'd be surprised, because there's all these perfectionists out there that, make it intimidating for people to want to make a pie because, well, it doesn't look perfect. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to be imperfect. It's homemade. You want it to have your signature on it. And every pie I make is different. I don't, there's no guarantee it's going to turn out, but nobody cares. They're just glad you made a pie. So it's just like, that's what that guy in the film says. The message is just keep baking. Keep baking.
So tell me, do you have a favorite pie story that's come out of, let's not say that the film specifically, because I'm sure you keep getting asked, but like that's come out of the conversations you've had during the screenings? Is there a favorite pie story? And also, what's your favorite pie? Dad's was banana cream.
I would go back to that screening. Well, okay, I have 2 stories. First of all, that screening in Newport Beach totally blew my mind. That all these people 250 people showed up, many of them bringing pies and staying. And I was like, I didn't expect that in that environment. So that was a big thing for me.
Absolutely.
My very, very first screening was in a town of 200. And it was actually in Minnesota, not Iowa, because a friend of mine lives up there and runs an art center, and he invited me up. And there were only 22 people at the screening. It was a very, very cold, not cold. What am I saying? It wasn't a cold night, but it felt like a cold night. It was June. Well, it was June in northern Minnesota. Yeah, I guess it was cold. It was cold. Actually, it was cold, come to think of it, for summer. And so I did the Q&A afterward. We didn't have plans to serve pie. I mean, that was so early on in my venture. And I think we talked about it, but it didn't happen. Like I would have had to go up there a couple days early and organize a baking thing. And I don't know. But so in the Q&A, this lady says, oh, old lady, like 90, I don't know. She's in her 80s, maybe. She stands up in the Q&A and she goes, well, I have 2 pies cooling at home right now, and rhubarb custard. She went home and got them and came back and served her pies to the audience. And so we all got pie afterward. And it was,
oh my gosh,
that was one of the most amazing things. And that's from the start. Like the very, very first screening was like, oh my God, this woman went home and got her pies to share. They were still warm. It was some of the best pie I have ever had. And my only regret is I had a tiny piece because, I wanted I should have had a bigger piece. I just regret. I want another piece of that pie. I'm still thinking about it. But yeah, it was so sweet. And somebody else went out and got ice cream, and it was just like, oh my God, you people. And that's the film,
That's
that's the pie. That's what pie does. That's what these stories do. And like a lot of people say, oh, I want to do a pie giveaway like this, Eat Free Pie in the film. How do I do that? Here, I put them in touch, oh, I like that program where they teach teen girls, pie making skills and business skills and customer service skills, marketing skills, all that. And how, it's a program. Do you think that we could do that program in our area? So like, there's been a lot of this kind of, ripple effect with the film, which is very exciting for me to see, like very fulfilling to know that people are really taking something away from it and wanting to implement something similar in their own community.
It's such a film to have a conversation over pie about. Like I watched it by myself, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I could see it being so meaningful to have these connections, especially with different generations. And hearing the stories about even when it goes out of pie and you just, like I said, like my mom with these Italian cookies, like, it's the things that we pass on to each other and the things we get out of nurturing. And I loved it. So thank you. And last thing though, what is your favorite pie?
So I have so many favorite pies, but I could say it's kind of seasonal depending, but
okay.
Well, in the summer, peach crumble is number one. Well, no, spring is strawberry rhubarb, then peach crumble. And then in the fall, I would say, well, I get cravings for pumpkin pie. I know it's really simple, but just that. And then an apple, of course. But and then right now it's winter. So my partner's favorite pie is French silk pie, which is chocolate with a whipped cream on top. And it's amazing. And so, that's next up on the favorite pie list. But I always say that apple is like, if I had to choose one, it would be apple because that's the one I never get tired of.
Oh man, you're making me want pie.
Yeah, no, it's a thing. I mean, I actually have apples here at home. So I have them out on the counter, sitting in a pie dish, ready to make an apple pie.
So you will just go make a pie right now, possibly, if you want. It will be nothing. Yeah. You're just going to make a pie.
Yeah, for no reason, you mean? Like,
yes, it's just gonna.
I told my partner, I go, I really should share some of this with his sister-in-law. She's got her leg in a cast or a brace because she had broke her kneecap, and then I haven't seen my neighbor who lives a mile and a half down. I haven't seen her for a month, so I'm like, oh, I should take her a piece. And then I was like, or we could just eat it ourselves. I don't know. Sometimes you just need pie. Sometimes it just feels good to make the pie. And then you never know who might stop by and, hey, we want a piece of pie, So, yeah, I don't know. It's always better to share it. So I'm sure at least one or two of those pieces will make it out of the house to somebody else.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to make sure that in the show notes, we have everything about where people can watch Piowa, where it's screening, where they can learn more about you, since Piowa isn't just your story, and also get the cookbooks.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
It's fun talking to you.
You too. A huge thanks to Beth Howard. I especially love the way she talked about following something small and something creative and letting it become meaningful without forcing it to be what we think it's supposed to be. And next week, we're digging into a different kind of pressure, the expectations placed on parents and especially moms, and how much of what we think we're supposed to do might not actually be serving us or our kids, with Jessica Leahy. In the meantime, if this episode inspired you to follow your own passion or to bake or eat a pie, share it with a friend. That's how these conversations keep going. See you next week on Roar.